Hello, everybody. Today, I am so excited that you're joining me because on the other side of the microphone is Jenna Faith, aka Jenn Scalia. And I am so thrilled to have her here because we're going to be talking about all the juicy stuff when it comes to perseverance, when it comes to daring to take life by the horns, when it comes to taking leaps and just living the life that fuels your heart, that answers the soul's calling, no matter what's going on around you, no matter the amount of naysayers, no matter the obstacles that come away. And Jenna is somebody that I have been following for the past couple of years, and it has been such an honor to see her evolution from the outside and the growth and the changes. So first and foremost, Jenna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation today.
So let's start with where you are right now. What's going on in your life? What gives you joy and pleasure? And what keeps your light going, even literally no matter the circumstances?
I really feel like, I've been online for about 7 years now, and I really feel like now I'm like just really stepping into like the work that I'm really supposed to do on this earth. So it's really exciting to be able to, step into that and kind of see the evolution and the changes of what I had to go through before that, and the different things that I had to teach, and the different things that I had to say, and the different ways that I had to be to ultimately get to this like beautiful place that I'm at right now, where things are just like everything's just kind of flowing. I'm like going in a, not necessarily a different direction. I feel like I saw someone make a post about like, how people are like always going in a different direction. I'm like, but it's an evolution, right? Because the more that we learn about ourselves, the more that we work with mentors, the more that we dive into our personal development, like we become a better person, which is like, okay, now how can I take these gifts and how can I take all of this stuff and help other people do the same thing? So I'm really excited about where my business is going right now, and just the evolution that has happened from basically just doing freelance social media when I first started to where it's at now, like really helping women create a legacy and really enjoy and love their lives, no matter what's going on. So
I remember a couple of years ago when you first came into my circles, one of the things that really resonated was your transparency. And that was before everybody else and their mom was selling 10K in a month. But you literally shared the screen of your bank accounts. You literally opened up your heart. You were really transparent with, listen, I lost my job. I got a divorce. I went bankrupt. I have a little boy that depends on me. These are the struggles I'm going through. And one of the things that you always made sure to stress out was not just the business strategies, but the mindset and the personal development, as you mentioned.
yeah.
Was there an aha moment when you're like, a light bulb went on and you said, oh, personal development really is the key and not just the strategies and the tactics and stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just one moment, but it was just after working with so many people, I mean, in the beginning, it was very much the masculine strategy, like step by step, do this, do that, very numbers based, goal oriented stuff. But as I started to work with more people, and like these people would come to me for that, they would come to me for the business strategy. They would come to me to show them how to put together a challenge or a launch or something like that. But the actual deep work and the actual transformation always came from uncovering like what was stopping them from achieving that in the first place, right? Which was never that they didn't have the right strategy or they didn't have the right software. Or they just, it was never about that. It was always something internal that was blocking them or stopping them. Or sometimes it was an external, like sometimes it was what was happening in their lives, right? Or in their relationships. So, what I discovered just from working with so many people was like, this strategy piece is just such a tiny piece of the puzzle. It's an important piece, yes, but it's such a tiny piece of the puzzle that even if you had it all or everything was perfect, if you still had some internal battles going on, that it wouldn't work. And I would see that. I would see people that would just, take a strategy and like be able to run with it and crush it and like make, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then I would see somebody do the same exact strategy and completely flop, right? And it was like, okay, now this is like, I'm starting to see really how important this is, even though I had been seeing it happen within my personal life and what was going on for me in my business and being able to shatter my own blocks and invisible ceilings. But then I started seeing that more and more with other people. And that's where the evolution kind of came in, was like, I need to help people with the part that's actually going to help them, right? That's actually going to serve them and allow them to go into their next levels.
What would you say for yourself has been one of the biggest invisible blocks and glass ceilings that you have shattered? Is there an possible answer, or has been different level, different ceilings that you went through?
I think it all always boils down to what you think is possible for you. You know, it's like your belief. Like, I remember the first aha that I had, like when I first started, was like just the amount of money or the amount of wealth that I could have for myself, because I had this vision of what I thought normal was. I had this vision of like, oh, if somebody makes X amount of dollars, that means they're doing pretty good in life, you know? And it was very small numbers, you know, it was like $40,000, you're doing great, you know? I thought people that made six figures, like $100,000 a year, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so rich, you know? And it was like, that was my perspective, because that's what I grew up with and that's what I saw. And so until like when I came online and I was like, oh my gosh, people are making $40,000 in a month. They're making 60,000 in a month. They're making 100,000 in a month. Like, this is crazy, right? So for me, it was like, I had put that invisible cap on myself just because I didn't even know any better. Like, I just didn't even know that it was possible. And once I got, you know, involved in, you know, this business and started seeing things, I was like, whoa, well, if she could do it, I definitely could do it, you know? So sometimes it's like, we just don't even have the awareness of what's possible. It's not that we don't think that we're good enough necessarily or things like that. It's just our eyes are not even open to the possibilities, you know? And then obviously, are we worth it? Like, that's another layer, right? But I think for me, it was definitely just even an awareness that like, this was even possible. Wait, I could actually like make all of this money doing something that's really fun and that like, you know, makes my heart sing. Like, that's pretty awesome, right? Whereas like, I know before I even stepped into the coaching world, like, I just had no clue. I just literally was clueless. Like, I didn't know.
But we always learn anyway.
Yeah.
It was the guts to go out there and put yourself out there and say, you know, I'll figure it out. I'll build a plane while I'm on a way.
Yep.
One of the most remarkable aspects of your business is, at least looking from the outside, and I'll be curious about your inside perspective, with your incredible growth, literally quantum leaping, how has that shifted the way you built your business on the inside? Because it's still really streamlined. It really allows you for a lot of flexibility. You're one of the people who is really creative, and you're not putting any restrictions in place of, oh, this is how it's supposed to look like. But instead of, I feel called to do this, I feel called to show up, and you build a business around to give you this flexibility.
Yeah, I think that's a really hard thing to do, is to kind of ignore the rules and decide that like you just get to have it your way and you get to make the business the way that you want to, because we're inundated, you know, every single day with messages of like, you have to do it this way, or this is the only thing that works. And, you know, I did get caught in that trap of like, oh, well, I don't even, like, I remember at a time thinking like, oh, I don't even have a real business, you know, like I was making a ton of money, but in my head, I was like, I feel like a baby. Like, I don't even have a business because I don't have XYZ in place. I don't have this stuff, you know? And even though I was making money, it was like, I'm not grown up, you know, like I don't have that grown up business. And so there was a little while there where I thought I had to go do these things, or I had to do whatever so that I could legitimize, you know, what I was doing. Thank God I got out of that. And it was just like, I'm doing the thing that I love and I'm getting paid for it, and, you know, my bills are covered and I'm able to live the life that I want. That's good enough for me. I really had this like epiphany that like, you know, I am an entrepreneur, but I'm not really like, I don't want to be a business owner, you know, like I'm an artist, you know? So for me, it was like just this distinction that like, I'm an artist and a creator with an entrepreneurial mind. Right. And so that's how I've been able to grow my business, versus like, I just have all these nuts and bolts in place and I have, you know, the perfect, you know, systems and team and, you know, all of this stuff that I thought I needed in order to validate what I was doing. But yes, once I really stepped into like, I'm just an artist and a creator and I get to make money from that.
How beautiful is that? Because right now, especially, I think there's a lot of restraints that are coming in, a lot of pressure and responsibilities because we have built all the nuts and bolts around it, following what we should be doing as opposed to figuring out, like when you just said, I'm an artist. I mean, what a beautiful revelation that is, as opposed to trying to squeeze yourself into the, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, this is how it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
With that said, as a mom to a son who is watching every step, and do you hope that he follows your steps, or what's your vision and desire for him, and wish actually?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want him to follow in my footsteps as far as being an entrepreneur per se, but I do want him to follow in my footsteps of just doing the thing that he really desires and the thing that he really loves, and the thing that, you know, plays to his strengths, you know, and that allows him to just be who he is and get paid for it. That may be being an entrepreneur. You know, he knows what that means. You know, we've talked about it and things like that, but he's also really smart academically, you know? So it's like, I can see him like going to college and getting like a really great career and things like that. And so I'm just trying to teach him what I know, you know, so that way he can make his own decisions. He's only 9 now. So he's got a little ways to go. We got like 9 years before he has to make a decision about college. But yeah, it's just, I just want him to really understand who he is, so that he can make his own decisions.
Yeah. Are you noticing you're parenting him differently than the way you were parented because of all the personal development and growth and evolution you have been through?
Yeah, that's actually something that I have been exploring a lot more lately, is like, what actually happened in my childhood? You know, like, how was I mean, I grew up, you know, just upper middle class, like normal family, both parents, a dog, a sister, you know, I mean, we would go on family vacations every year. So it was like, it was just a normal quote unquote family, right? Like there wasn't any drama, there wasn't any weird things going on. But I know that there was definitely things that happened when I was younger, or things that were said to me, or just like these ideas and beliefs and stories that were ingrained in me that I definitely don't want to pass on to him, you know, especially when it comes to just like really limiting things when it comes to money and wealth and what you can achieve. Like, I just feel like it was never, you know, my dad was an entrepreneur, but I was never taught or told anything about being an entrepreneur, right? It was like, go to school, get a safe job, marry somebody, and, you know, like that's the life. So for me, I really want to expand his horizons as far as like what is possible for him. And yeah, I mean, it definitely was like what I heard from my dad, or what I knew from my dad going to work and having his own business, was like, that it was really hard, you know? And so that was the message that I received. So as far as like the messages that I'm sending to my son, I definitely want that to be more positive, more, you know, limitless, and open to the possibilities of what he can achieve versus what he shouldn't do.
That resonates a lot because both of my parents have also been entrepreneurs, and growing up, it was the same thing, especially from that side. It was hard. It took a lot of pressure and hustle and grind. And there was a point in my life where I was like, oh, can I really, and I'm pretty sure that's something you encounter with your clients too. Can I really have it that easy? Because my parents have struggled so hard and gave up so much for me to be here. And here I am showing up with my gifts, being an artist, being a creative, and really enjoying life. Has that been something that your clients are coming up to you for, or even something you have to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like I completely like detached myself from like the old beliefs, like completely. But it's funny that you bring that up, because I was having a conversation with a client the other day, and, you know, she kept saying something about like, she just didn't have something, you know, she was trying to like tell me that the reason why she wasn't moving was because she was uninspired, or, you know, like she just didn't have the thing. She wasn't clear on the thing. And we started digging, and I'm like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden she says something about like, well, I don't want to be like my mom, you know? And she's like, everybody's starting to compare, you know, me to my mom, and my mom was a workaholic, and she made a good living, but she worked her ass off, you know? And I was like, bingo, like that's the thing that's stopping you, because you have this belief, you have this story and evidence that in order to, you know, make a good living, and do the things you want, you have to work your ass off, right? Like you have to work your fingers to the bone. So, that was definitely something that we had to overcome for her. And like, she was like, oh my God, she's like, my mind is blown, because she was trying to give me all of these excuses and reasons. And I was like, no, that's not it. And then that was like a huge breakthrough for her. Was like, I don't want to be like my mom, because this is what happened. And this is the evidence that I see, is that the only way you can make it is by working your butt off.
Mm-hmm. We could talk about just this for like another 5 hours probably. But you see also one of your specialties is visibility and really putting yourself out there, which it's either made much more, it's made easier with the internet. Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand, everybody can do that. Everybody can put themselves out there. So what are some of the things, based on your expertise and experience, that really set somebody apart, and especially in the crowded space? Because I know for myself personally, it's like, I have no interest in shouting and being louder than everybody else, mm-hmm. but finding the so-called blue ocean, your own market, elevating above the noise.
Yes. And I think that, there are those people who are like, I just need to be louder and talk more and do better and one up people, right? They think that that's the way. But for me, it really boils down to you just being authentic and you being in alignment with the work that you do, right? Like you really being in alignment so much that like, you have to talk about it, right? And this is like one of the things that I help my clients overcome, because they're like, oh, I don't want to be salesy, or I don't want to, brag, or I don't want to whatever. And I'm like, but if you can really get behind the work that you're doing, right? Your art, your creation, the programs that you're offering, all of that stuff, like it just, you can't stop yourself, right? Because you're so in love with the thing that you're doing. And if you're to that point where it's like, I'm just not going to talk about it, then it's time to kind of reevaluate like what you're actually saying and what you're actually selling. Mm-hmm. So for me, it really just is about just being authentically you. And I'm a huge introvert, at least I was. No one believes me because of how, out there I am online, and I'm just very outspoken. But before I started this business, I was always the behind the scenes person, always the right hand man, always the one that was like helping other people shine. And even I remember when I first started my business, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have to put my big old face on a header on my website. Like, no way, I don't want to do that, And I was like even embarrassed about little things like that, or like going on a Zoom like this, I would not have done 5 years ago, I was just so shy and introverted, stage fright, like the whole works, But what happened was I got in touch with my work, and I was like, this is my purpose work. This is what I'm supposed to be doing in the world. And who am I not to show up and serve the people that I'm meant to serve? So I made my vision and my mission bigger than my ego, because everything that was stopping me from being visible, everything that was stopping me from saying what I actually wanted to say, or, going against the grain, it was all ego. It was like, what are people going to think about me? What are people going to say? So-and-so's not going to like that. What if I get some backlash on this? What if, what if, right? And it was all the ego stuff. So once I could really just get behind, like, this is the work that I'm supposed to be doing, this is what I was put here on this earth for, and really connected with that, then it just became so easy for me to show up.
Love it. Putting vision in front of the ego. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Where does the change of your name come into this? Because just in a name, there's so much that we're holding on to, that we identify with, that defines us.
Yes. So my Jenn Scalia is actually my married name. And me and my ex-husband have not been together for, I don't want to say 7 or 8 years, but that was my identity, when I started my business. And so I have articles and interviews and books, and my website, like literally everything is attached to this name. And, for me, it wasn't just about the name. The name change to Jenna Faith was very significant in my evolution as well. So like I mentioned earlier, I started this business very masculine, very, step-by-step, numbers oriented, and, just the hustle, right? Like trying to just like make something happen for myself. And through the evolution, through working with people, through really creating and living in my art, I was like, there's this other side of me that people don't know about, right? There's this other side of me that's like, she's trapped in there and she's not being fully unleashed, you know? And that was really the feminine side and the goddess side, where it was like, I need to embrace that and embody that, because that is where the attraction comes. So I really looked at like what was happening online for me, and people would just like be attracted to me, right? Like my words or my pictures or my programs. And it's like, it was in there. It was always in there, but I didn't actually use it or leverage it to the way that I desired. And, you know, so it was like a rebirth when I changed my name, kind of just letting go of the old, right? Letting go of those old masculine ways, letting go of the name that, you know, is my ex-husband's name. You know, it's not even my name. It's not even my maiden name, you know, and being able to like really step into like and embody this new feminine, attractive, magnetic person. And I'm telling you, like, ever since I did it, it's maybe been like about a month now. Every single day, like, it has not skipped a day. Like, someone will send me a message like, I love your energy. I love everything that you're putting out there. You know, like, I could tell something has changed for you. I can tell that something is different. So the name, it was significant because it came to me in a meditation. But it, you know, really just symbolized this evolution that I went through myself.
This is in so many ways familiar to what many are experiencing. Perhaps it's not just the name, maybe it's changing the business, maybe it's closing the doors and leaping. Can you walk us through your process from the moment the name came to you in meditation to all the inner voices probably trying to talk you out of it, to the point where it's like, no, I'm doing it and announcing it, and what happened afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, it took probably about, I'm going to say 3 weeks to a month for me to actually, so I was actually taking a class on feminine, you know, it was like not necessarily like a relationship course, but it was really like how to like just embrace your feminine and how to act with men, how to act with women. And I was taking that course, and I'm not one to like really meditate too much. I do a lot of my journaling as like my meditation. And I was just like, all right, I'm gonna actually give this my all. Like, I'm gonna do this thing. And I listened to the meditation, and it was about like meeting your goddess and who she was and what she said to you. And I just remember like the name just came to me, and I have been actually wanting a middle name my whole life. I don't have a middle name. I actually put something on Facebook a long time ago, and I had like hundreds of comments because I was like, I feel like I got gypped. I never got a middle name. Like, what gives? Like, my parents have middle names. My sister has a middle name. Why don't I have one? Like, what happened? Did you just forget? So I always kind of had this like, you know, thing in the background, like, I want a middle name. And so, yeah, it literally like clearly came to me that my goddess, her name was Jenna. And then later Faith came, because Faith is really how I operate every single day, how I operate when I, you know, go into what I'm doing, working with clients, showing myself online, launching products. Like, I always have the faith. And that's something I always teach my clients as well. And so those two things kind of just came together. And I remember that day, right after the meditation, I made this like little picture, and it had the name on it, and I sent it to my coach. And I sent it to a couple other people, and I'm like, Jenna Faith. And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, that's my new name, you know, but I didn't own it like outwardly, publicly online for probably about 3 weeks to a month, because I had all those stories, you know, and I was like, but everybody knows me as this. What if people start seeing this in their newsfeed and they don't recognize it's me, and I'm going to lose all my followers? And there was just like all kinds of crazy stuff going on in my head. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to do it, you know? And I ended up like, I was engaged, and I broke off the engagement kind of like right around the same time. And for me, it was just like putting that stake in the ground. Like, this is the new me. Like, this is the new person, and I'm owning it, you know, not just the name, but the embodiment of who she actually is and what she actually represents. So for me, it was a whole thing. But yeah, it took about a month to really do that. And then ever since then, it's just been like all of this momentum has been building, and all of this attraction. And I feel like it's literally like this ball that's just like getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I'm definitely excited about it.
Yeah. No, you can definitely feel it. And I remember seeing that post when you shared it, and the outpour of love and support and admiration. It was just, I mean, beyond words.
Yeah.
And then the shock came, broken, broke off the engagement. And it was, again, so interesting to watch the support and admiration. And so many were like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I admire you. I respect you. This is so awesome because you're able to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And really, again, walking your talk, going beyond the labels and expectations. And where do you find the strength? Where do you find the inner reliance and this your own northern star that allows you to be so defiant to cultural expectations and norms?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just it's been my whole life. You know, my whole life I've been the black sheep. I've always been very close to my family as far as like my immediate family is small, but I have a lot of like aunts and uncles and cousins, and we're always all together. Like if we weren't on lockdown right now, like it's literally like every week there's a party. Like I remember every Sunday going to my aunt's house, and it was all of us. It was like 20 of us, you know? And I just always remember being like the black sheep, you know, like there was always something different about me. And of course I would get made fun of and like, oh, Jenn's weird, you know, and it was always that, you know, and I had to overcome that like as I became an adult, because I let that kind of define me. But once I found my business, like I really see like my business as being like my saving grace. And I'm like, this is the thing that really changed my life. You know, I help other people change their lives too, but this was the thing that really saved me from like just going down a really dark path. And, you know, I just, ever since I found that within my business, it was like, this is what I'm working for. You know, this, to be able to leave a legacy, to be able to have this thing that fuels me, that I'm passionate about, that I love, to be able to be that role model for my son and have him see me, not just like sitting on the couch, like, you know, feeling sorry for myself, but actually seeing me doing something that I love, working hard, like, you know, seeing me actually create something is like really, really beautiful. And so, you know, I just really made it non-negotiable that anything messes with that. Yeah. Because that is, you know, so any person, you know, whether it's a romantic interest, whether it's a friend or a family member who wants to kind of infiltrate and, you know, say things or make comments or mess with my energy or just doesn't serve me in any way, I've made a choice to like be able to just put a hard stop on that. And I think that that's really difficult for a lot of people. It was difficult for me to, you know, finally like end the relationship, even though I knew for months, you know, before that okay, this isn't really working, right? But again, like you said, it's the stigma, it's the like, oh, what are people gonna think, we just got engaged, like, you know, it's like we have all these things, and most people would stay, right, to try to work it out or to try to figure it out or just to save face or whatever, you know. And I've been there too, and I was just like, no, like this isn't working, like this is not going to allow me to do the ultimate things that I want to do in this world, in this life. And so I just had to make that decision. But yeah, for me, it's like I have these non-negotiables now that it's like, so that way it's not even a question, you know. It's just like, that's just the way that it is. And if that, like, it's like, you know, going to, you know, getting arrested, right? It's like you have these rules, right? And these laws, like if you break the law, you're going to get arrested, like you're going to get put away. Like for me, it's kind of like I've made it so that there are certain things that like you just don't do, and if you do, you're out. Yeah. You know, and that could, you know, not just be a person, but it could also be things in your business, right? Marketing techniques, like strategies, things that aren't working for you, like, you know. And it took time. I don't expect people to like be like, oh my God, I'm just going to make these rules and like live by them. But, you know, it took time to really understand that and know too, like there's certain things that are happening in my business, or, you know, strategies that I'm getting from my coach, or maybe things that I was doing before that no longer work, for me to be able to put a hard stop on it, even if it feels like questionable as far as like, oh, this might make me go back a couple steps or whatever. I'm always doing it for the highest good.
Has there been an example, or are you able to share an example, speaking of business, when you realized something worked, it doesn't work before, I don't know what's going to happen if I let it go, so do I give it a try? Do I kind of let it when you were not quite decisive or sure of what to do, how to do it?
Yeah. I kind of think that's happening right now. I feel like it happens all the time. For me, it's like it's happening every year because, like I said, like I'm growing, I'm evolving, I'm learning what works. And, for me, it was always like I built my business like organically, through social media, through making posts and through all that stuff. And I would say over the last few months, it's been like, well, like that's great. And, I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to share my stories. I'm still going to do all of that stuff, but that's not enough, right? Like if I want to get to where I want to go, like I have to, put my big girl panties on, and I got to like do the advertising, and I've got to like do the things that are actually going to bring in a lot more people. It's actually a realization I had this morning that was like, I want to reach like millions of people. And just organic social media, it doesn't allow for that. It's limiting, it's like I can reach thousands of people maybe, but if I want to reach like the masses and millions of people, I've got to get out there in bigger ways than just me posting on my Facebook page or me posting on Instagram, right? Like those are kind of short term, like, okay, this is going to work. It's going to make me money. I can sell out my course. But like for me to really make an impact in a bigger way, like I have to go bigger. I have to think bigger. I have to go out there and do the scary things, right? And like make those investments in advertising and, hiring people who are going to create an infrastructure in my business that's actually going to allow me to reach more people.
Yeah. So what would be this big vision, the direction that you're going, the destination you're after?
I feel like I don't know what the destination is. And, I've thought about that so many times. It's like, what's the ultimate goal? Like, so for me, it's always like, what's the next thing that I want to do? Like, I kind of stay on that train because I know I'm never going to quit this. I'm never going to stop this. I'm always going to be doing this in some capacity. So for like, I feel like when we set a goal, right? Like we set a goal, we reach it, and then it's like, okay, what's the next thing? Right? Like it's always like, what's the next? It's never like I'm satisfied now, I'm gonna like relax and chill. Like it's like, no, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? So for me, it's not so much as like there's this end goal, and I don't know, because the world is changing so quickly, and it's like we have no idea. So for me, it's always like, what's the next thing? What's the next best thing for me to do? What's the next place that I want to be? And then working towards that without getting too caught up in like, the big picture of like, this is going to happen or this has to happen this way. Obviously, I have a big vision as far as like a more broad vision, which is to help women create wealth and freedom with their business. That's like my overarching theme. Like no matter how I do it, whether it's speaking or books or, whatever it is, that's the mission, right? And so I always have my eye on that. And then it's like, I'm cool with, rolling with the punches. I'm cool with kind of seeing like what's working right now and how do I get on that train and how do I leverage that to, maximize the message that I want to put out there.
And that's probably one of the things that allowed you to be so agile anyway, because you don't lock in this 10-year plan. And then no matter what happens in the market, it's like, oh shoot, I'm shackled down to this infrastructure. I'm shackled down to all the responsibilities and everything else. But that being said, your mission is incredible and you already have achieved so much. Has there been a moment when, or has it hit you yet or not, when you're like, this is it. Not I've arrived, but I made it. I can now turn around to the family and friends and say, listen, I told you so.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm still working towards that. I feel like I'm definitely still, I feel like I'm like right on the edge. Like I was saying, like that ball of fire, like, it's just like, like something's going to happen with that. Like, I don't know what it is, but yeah, I feel like, not quite. I think, I still, I don't really talk to my family about like how much money I make, or I remember telling my dad how much money I made when I first had like my first 10K month or something. And so this was like 5 years ago. And I remember telling him, and I think like that's how much money he thinks I make, and I'm like, that's cool. like that's fine, because it's always like, oh, you're rich, you can pay for dinner, and I'm like, okay, Dad. But for me, it was like, I want to stay focused on my goal. And again, putting those like policies in place of like what I'm not going to allow in my space that could potentially give me doubts, or, having the naysayers and all of that stuff. So I'm very protective of what I allow in my space and what I allow in my energy. But yeah, I feel like I'm definitely almost there. And I don't know, maybe I might never be there, you know, I might always be like going for that next thing. So,
No. As we're wrapping up, I do have one final question for you. With the current turn of events, a lot of people were in for a rude awakening.
yeah.
A lot of lessons have been learned. Was there anything that you're taking from our current reality that you will apply to the future? Maybe better prepare, maybe amplify what's been working and has proven to be working, and put it in place for the future, or something that you're like, can't risk that again?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely when it comes to money and, you know, like true wealth building and also being able to teach those lessons to my clients as well about like, you know, being so secure and being in a place where it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on because you're already there, right? And you're able to make things happen no matter what. You already have your safety net, right? Because I feel like a lot of people now are scrambling to create a safety net, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have to like do this now, where it's like the people who have been prepared, it's like, okay, like we got to deal with it, right? Like it's happening. We have the awareness that it's happening, but it's like it doesn't mess us up like mentally of like, I'm not going to make it, or I have to quit, or I have to whatever, right? So yeah, for me, I think it's definitely about making sure like the foundations are in place, you know, making sure that the business is sustainable, that it's built on solid ground. So that way, no matter what happens, and, you know, what if you got sick for a month? You
Mhm.
know, are you going to be able to continue your business? So I really, you know, I've been doing this with my clients for the last probably year or so, but like really helping them create sustainability in their income, you know, versus like doing a big launch, making a whole bunch of money and then not making money again for 6 months, you know. So really setting it up so that way I'm good. Like no matter what happens, I'm good. Everything's paid for, and I have that infrastructure. I have that foundation that can't be rocked.
Yeah, would love to continue this conversation with you at another time, because that's a whole different lane that we can go into. But
Yeah.
I do want to say thank you for taking the time and being here today. What are some of the best ways that people can get in touch with you, learn more about you, or even take a bite-sized sample of the genius that you're putting out there?
So I actually have a podcast that is, it's short and sweet, 10 to 15 minute. Like I've been told that this is like a course, like every podcast is like a course. And that's at Meant for Millions. So you can just go to like Spotify or iTunes or whatever and just Google Meant for Millions and my podcast will come up. I would love the support around that because I got to get more listeners. I'm like, it's so good. It's so good. I really need to get this message in people's hands, right? So that's one place. And then I'm always hanging out in my Facebook group, which is also called Meant for Millions, but you can just go to jenscalia.com/tribe. And I'm always hanging out in there doing live streams and things like that. And of course, you can just find me and say hi and tell me you saw me on the interview. And I always enjoy that.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.